shoulder coming in there. But it's just a nice hip, okay? And then when you come to the neckline, it's more of a saddlebred neckline in the fact that it's lean and long. I would like to see it have just a little bit more arch throughout, okay? So that it has a nice, pleasing arch coming through here. And I think as you develop this, working on the bit, it'll fill in there. It's not what I call a dip in front of the withers, so I did not mark them. But I would just like to see it a little bit more. Now that was quite nice. Just see if you can turn this a little bit to the right. And then, a little to the other side. Yeah, it's too stiff. But that was another story. Okay, so the shoulder line is very indicative of the Frisian in the fact that the point of shoulder and the breastbone sternum is more out in front of the horse. Okay, so far you've seen 2 or 3 horses. Okay, the back and loin area is a little bit more Frisian than it is saddlebred. The hip is definitely more saddlebred than it is Frisian. Hence, based on how he carries his head and neck and his back and his croup, he does not round himself a great deal. He is more of a flatter moving horse. Okay, it makes for a very stylish mover, but it's not like ducking and pulling the hip in underneath and then pushing forward and making the front end high, the back end low, and da-da-da. But he has all the propulsion. It's just a little bit different way of projecting himself. He's very strong in the hindquarters, and hence he actually engages, which is awesome for me to see today. And to propel himself forward with great oomph and pomp and circumstance. So that is very pleasing to me.
Thank you.
But then again, we don't have the roundness, but we have the forward motion. We have really good bone under this horse. Nice, adequate, hard, flat bone. The tendons are really very, very obvious, very clean throughout the joints and adequate both sides to carry the size of the horse. Okay, so I'm supposed to come up with something negative?
It's all right if you don't.
Well, we're going to work a little bit on the neck. And I think the distance and the coupling from the point of hip to the back of the last rib is a little concave. And so he may have to carry a little bit more weight in order to fill it up artificially. But then again, if she's combined driving, which she is involved in, you're not going to put on more weight, you're going to put on muscle. And that's a bit different. I just really like him. He just, even though he doesn't have quite as much suspension as, maybe the highest level dressage horse, we don't care, because what he's going to do with his life, if he spent a lot of time in the air doing combined driving,
He wouldn't make the marathon.
he wouldn't make the marathon. Exactly. He'd spend all his time in the air instead of getting around the posts. And I'd rather get around a post. Okay.
So would I.
Yes, exactly. So I just think he's just a really nice guy, and he's not at all silly. And I think he got the best of both worlds, and I just think you got a nice package. Oh, I know what I missed. I knew I had something. And I did say, he has all this propulsion, but a lot of that propulsion is coming from very good hocks. He really flexes his hocks. He has almost as much flexion in the hocks as he does in the front end. And that's hard to come by. So cherish it if you happen to see it in your own horses. So even though it's uphill, yes, you like it uphill. But really, when the judge is looking at you coming down the rail, whether you're riding saddle seat, dressage, whatever, they want to see the front end and the back end doing approximately the same thing, okay, in order to get really good credit. And I think I asked you to remind me of a story about teeth, didn't I? Was that on this horse?
No, it was on
This-
that.
No, different.
Oh, yeah, see, and I missed it, didn't I? You didn't tell me. Okay, but I have got to tell this story because it is so hysterical that I have to tell some horse people.
Non-horse people don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked at that little mare, and she was 4, and I looked at some others, and they were 5 or 6. He's 6, isn't he? Yes. And so I took a client to see a nice young horse, and they're non-horsemen. I mean, the little girl rides, but it's a non-horseman type family. But they're real avid learners, and they're right on, you know, if I say it, they've got it forever. You know, they're 1, 2, 3. So we get to this knowledgeable horseman's barn, okay? And he does cowboy mounted shooting, and he does some artificial insemination, and you know, so he can get around the block without falling off, and then he's taken classes on AI, and he does all these things, and so I'm right up there with, he has a nice barn, everything is spiffy, and I'm like, talks well, and I'm thinking, he really knows, you know. So I can talk to him, you know, really, I don't have to talk down, I can talk at my, you know, so we relate. Okay. Well, as I do with every horse I look at their teeth. And I've looked at most of these horses' teeth. Some of them volunteered, and others I've, you know, opened their lips. And I'm seeing if the teeth meet. You know, you want to have a horse, that, especially mare or stallion, that the teeth are flush with each other. They're in alignment. And you should check. Don't just take it for granted, okay, that everything that's going on inside is okay. Because if you have a horse, that's inherited. And that's a very bad inheritance if they don't have teeth that meet. It helps if they have teeth. You know, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, so, well, I looked at another horse a few years ago, and he had all sorts of funny things going on in his mouth. He had, and it wasn't that he was young either. He had teeth missing, and he had teeth one behind the other, and it wasn't because he was young. And it was just really a weird mouth. And they said, and then when I called him on it, they said, well, we do give him special feed to keep him up to weight. And I'm like, we don't need that. Okay, so anyhow, I go to this nice young horse, and they had told me, oh, he's probably 6 or 7, okay? And this young guy says, he's 6 or 7. So yeah, I just checking his bite, and of course his teeth met beautifully. And then I looked up and I said, oh, he's just turning 5. He's just a youngster. And the guy looks at me kind of peculiarly, and I just smiled and went on with our examination. Turns out his girlfriend is and will be again a riding student of mine, and they weren't getting along at the time. So naturally, she was really busy to call me and tell me what reactions he had when I came to look at his horse. And he says to her, I don't know what she was doing looking at my horse's mouth. Well, anybody knows that you should have teeth that meet. Okay? So that shouldn't have been a question mark. And then he says, and to think that she thought that she could tell the age of that horse by looking at its teeth. Why, that's an old Indian's tale that you can tell age by teeth. I just about died. Everything I thought about this person just went right down the ear. And you know, it couldn't have been any more clear with those little corner incisors just peeking through and saying, I'm 5, I'm 5. If he'd been most any other age, I might not have been able to say. But the fact that he didn't even know that that was conceivable, that there'd be a reason why you look at a mouth, I was just, you know, but I thought you'd enjoy that a great deal. And so I just had to share it with somebody. But needless to say, it's not just the wise old Indian that's talking. Okay. So I thank you for bringing this lovely horse to me today.